No one noticed. Not the prettiest, not the wittiest, not the one anyone chose first. And yet, she became the center of a love story no one saw coming. Because sometimes the quietest heart holds the deepest love. And sometimes the man who changes everything is the one you were never meant to meet. London was supposed to change everything. For Mary Bennet, it was not just a journey, it was an escape. An escape from the constant comparisons, the silent judgments, and the lingering feeling that she was somehow less. Less charming, less beautiful, less worthy of being loved. In a family where brilliance came easily to others, Mary had learned to shrink herself, to speak only when necessary, to feel deeply but never show it. And so, when she arrived in London, she carried with her a quiet hope that perhaps in a place so vast and unfamiliar, she might finally become someone new. But London did not welcome her with transformation. It greeted her with the same uncomfortable truth that no matter where she went, she could not outrun herself. She turned to what she knew best: books, music, and poetry, not because she understood them fully, but because she wanted to. Poetry, in particular, felt like a language she was always on the edge of understanding, as if meaning lived just beyond her reach. She studied it carefully, analyzed it, tried to make sense of it. But feeling it, that was something else entirely. Because Mary Bennet did not trust her own emotions. She questioned them, doubted them, silenced them before they could fully form. And then he arrived. Tom Hayward, not with grandeur or dramatic entrance, but with something far more dangerous: kindness. The kind that notices, the kind that listens, the kind that lingers. From the very beginning, there was something different in the way he spoke to her, not as if she were lacking, but as if she were simply unfinished. "Miss Bennet," he said politely, but it wasn't long before, "Mary." And just like that, something shifted. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but for someone like Mary, being seen, even slightly, felt like everything. Their conversations began cautiously, measured, careful. Mary hid behind logic, as she always did. "I prefer facts to whimsy," she admitted once, almost defensively, as if feelings were something unreliable. And perhaps they were, because feelings required vulnerability, and vulnerability required courage, something Mary was not sure she possessed. But Tom, he did not challenge her harshly. He did not laugh at her uncertainty. Instead, he offered something unfamiliar: patience. "You are not a stranger to strong feelings," he told her gently, and for a moment, just a moment, Mary wondered if that could be true. Could there be more to her than quiet observation, more than careful words and hidden thoughts? Could she be someone who feels deeply and allows herself to be known? With Tom, the world seemed to slow down. Moments stretched longer, silences felt softer, and for the first time, Mary was not trying to become someone else. She was simply becoming. But growth is never comfortable, because just as she began to open herself to something new, the world around her remained unchanged. The whispers, the comparisons, the subtle reminders of where she stood, not the beautiful one, not the lively one, not the one anyone would choose. And slowly, those voices grew louder than her own. "I am not finding my place here," she confessed one evening, not dramatically, not emotionally, just truthfully. Because the hardest realization is not that others fail to see you, it's that you begin to believe them. Tom saw it, the doubt, the hesitation, the quiet retreat back into herself. And yet he stayed, not to fix her, not to change her, but to understand her. And that was something Mary had never experienced before. Still, she could not shake the feeling that it would not last, because nothing ever did, not for her. Hope, she believed, was dangerous. It raised expectations only to leave you with disappointment. So she began to pull back, just slightly, just enough to protect herself, because if she never fully hoped, she would never have to fully lose. But love does not wait for certainty. It grows in the spaces between doubt and desire, between fear and longing. And without realizing it, Mary Bennet had already begun to fall. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, the way she always did everything. And the most dangerous part, she did not even know it yet. Because what happens when the one person who finally sees you becomes the one you are most afraid to lose? And what if she is already too late to understand what her heart truly feels? At first, Mary told herself it was nothing. Just conversation, just shared moments, just a kindness she had mistaken for something more. Because surely it could not be more. Not for her. She had spent too many years understanding her place in the world, observing it carefully, accepting it quietly. Affection was something given to others, admiration something she watched from a distance, and love? Love belonged to people who were chosen. Still, something about Tom made it difficult to remain unchanged. It was not what he said, it was how he said it. Never rushed, never careless, as though every word he offered her mattered. "You think too much," he once said, not unkindly, as if feeling requires permission. Mary had no answer to that, because he was right. She had built her entire life on caution, on restraint, on the careful avoidance of anything that might expose her heart. And yet, with him, that careful distance began to blur. He asked her questions no one had asked before, not about what she knew, but about what she felt. And that unsettled her, because feelings were not precise. They could not be measured or proven. They simply existed. And Mary Bennet did not trust anything she could not fully understand. "I do not believe I have the mind for poetry," she admitted one afternoon. "It feels like guessing at something I am not meant to know." Tom only smiled slightly. "Perhaps it is not meant to be understood," he said. "Perhaps it is meant to be felt." Felt. Such a simple word, and yet, for Mary, it carried a quiet weight. Because to feel meant to risk being wrong, to risk being seen, to risk being hurt. And still, she listened, because a part of her, small, uncertain, but growing, wanted to believe him. Their time together became something she began to anticipate, not openly, not in a way she would ever confess, but in the way her thoughts lingered a little longer after their conversations ended, in the way silence felt different when he was near, in the way she noticed things she had never noticed before. The warmth of sunlight on quiet afternoons, the softness and laughter she did not expect, the strange, unfamiliar feeling of being at ease. "You seem different," someone remarked once. Mary dismissed it quickly, but later she wondered, different how? Was it visible? Had something truly changed? Or was it simply that, for the first time, someone had taken the time to look beyond what she appeared to be? Tom did. He noticed the hesitation in her voice, the way she second-guessed her own words, the way she almost always apologized, even when she had done nothing wrong. "You do not need to diminish yourself," he told her quietly. But Mary did not know how to stop, because diminishing herself was not a choice she made. It was a habit she had learned, a way of surviving in a world that rarely made space for her. And yet, he continued to make space, without force, without expectation, just presence. But not everything was as simple as it seemed, because while Mary struggled to understand her own feelings, there were truths she had not yet faced about him, about his past, his obligations, his future, things that existed long before she entered his life. "I had an understanding," he admitted one evening, his tone careful. "As it turns out, it is no longer to continue." Mary felt the shift immediately, subtle but undeniable, an understanding, a connection that had existed before her, a promise that had almost been something more. And though he spoke of it lightly, Mary could not, because suddenly what she had tried so hard to ignore became impossible to deny. He had a life beyond her, a path that did not include her, and whatever this was between them, whatever quiet, unspoken thing that had begun to grow, it might not be enough. "I am sure you will scarcely notice if I am gone," she said once, half in jest, but the words carried more truth than she intended, because deep down, she believed it, believed that her absence would not leave a mark, that her presence was not something to be missed. Tom's expression shifted then, serious, searching. "I would notice," he said simply, and for a moment, everything stilled, because those 3 words, so quiet, so certain, held more meaning than anything she had allowed herself to imagine. But certainty is fragile, especially when it's built on something unspoken, because neither of them said what truly mattered. Not then, not yet. And so misunderstanding began to root, in the pauses between conversations, in the words left unsaid, in the fear that perhaps one cared more than the other. Mary felt it first, that quiet, creeping doubt, the sense that she was standing on the edge of something fragile, something uncertain, and that one wrong step could cause it all to disappear. So she did what she always done. She stepped back. Not completely, not obviously, but enough. Enough to protect herself, enough to create distance. Because if she never fully allowed herself to hope, she would never have to face the possibility of losing him. But distance does not protect the heart, it confuses it. And sometimes it pushes away the very thing we are most afraid to lose. Because while Mary was trying to guard her feelings, Tom was beginning to question them. Her silence, her hesitation, her retreat. What did that mean? Was it indifference, uncertainty, or something else entirely? And in that uncertainty, a decision began to form, one that neither of them was prepared for. Because what happens when 2 people feel the same thing, but neither dares to say it? And worse, what happens when one of them decides to walk away before the truth is ever spoken? The change did not happen all at once. It never does. It began quietly, in the spaces between their conversations, in the pauses that lasted a little too long, in the careful way they both avoided saying what truly mattered. Mary felt it before she understood it, that subtle distance, not coldness, not unkindness, just absence, as if something that had once been easy between them was now being measured, weighed, held back. And she told herself it was for the best, because this, whatever it was, had always been uncertain, too delicate to rely on, too undefined to trust. So she returned to what she knew: routine, restraint, silence. "I think it is best," she said one day, her voice steady despite the quiet tension beneath it, "that we end our arrangement." Arrangement, such a safe word, such a distant word, as if what they had shared could be reduced to something practical, something manageable. Tom did not respond immediately, and in that silence, Mary felt the weight of what she had done, but she did not take it back, because to take it back would mean admitting that it mattered, and she was not ready to admit that, not even to herself. "If that is what you wish," he said at last, polite, composed, but something in his voice had changed, and just like that, it was over. Or at least, that is what she told herself. Because ending something unspoken does not mean it disappears. It lingers, in memory, in thought, in every moment that follows. And suddenly, London felt different, colder, quieter. The very place that had once held the possibility of change now felt like a reminder of everything she had lost. "I have learned my lesson," Mary thought bitterly. A journey that promised so much has delivered very little, because hope had returned to her, only to leave her again, and this time it hurt more. But pain for Mary was not something to be expressed, it was something to be endured, silently, gracefully, as if it did not exist at all. Meanwhile, Tom was not untouched by the distance, far from it, because while Mary believed she had protected herself, he felt something entirely different: confusion, regret, and something he had not expected: loss. He replayed their conversations in his mind, her words, her expressions, the way she had looked at him, and then stopped. What had changed? What had he missed? Because from his perspective, nothing had been resolved, nothing had been explained, only ended. My circumstances have changed, he told himself, trying to make sense of it. But the truth was far less certain, because it was not circumstance that troubled him, it was her, the absence of her, and the realization, slow, undeniable, that she had come to mean more to him than he had ever intended, more than he had allowed himself to admit. But by the time he understood it, she was already slipping away. Mary, too, felt the shift, though she refused to name it. Days passed, conversations became formal, brief, careful, as though they were strangers once again. And perhaps that was the cruelest part, because they had never truly been strangers. They had known something deeper than that, something quiet but real, and now they were pretending it had never existed. "I cannot do this anymore," Mary whispered to herself one evening, not dramatically, not with tears, just a quiet acknowledgement that staying, continuing as if nothing had changed, was no longer possible. Because everything had changed. She could not return to who she had been before him. That version of herself, the one who felt nothing, expected nothing, was gone, and in its place was someone who had felt something real, something undeniable, and lost it. So she made a decision, not impulsively, not emotionally, but with the same quiet resolve that had defined her entire life. I must leave London. Because leaving was easier than staying and remembering, easier than watching him move on, easier than wondering what might have been, and perhaps easier than facing the truth, that she had been wrong, wrong to step back, wrong to remain silent, wrong to believe that protecting her heart meant denying it altogether. But by the time she allowed herself to see it, it felt too late, because Tom too had reached a conclusion, one shaped not by clarity, but by misunderstanding. "I thought it best," he admitted quietly to someone else,